because they're about to build a new building. And so that's just how you can push that. But another factor getting me into native plants is birds. During the pandemic, I'm an artist, paint at home, and I started doing more bird feeders, and then what can attract more birds. And I think Lisa talked to me, and she speaks at our church during our stewardship month for caring for the earth, and learning what draws butterflies in, and so that's all kind of added up to me wanting to plant any new native plants in our yard, or to be only native. And for our pets, we've never put pesticides in the yard, but now it's also for the wildlife. But I'm a professional fine artist. That's my job here. And I was just going to show you a little bit about my regular art, and I'll just start going if this will work. There. So I live in Ortega, and my studio is in my home, and I paint watercolors, which are usually flat on the table. I paint very large. It's kind of one of the things that kind of I get known for. And then on the easel is I paint oil paintings, but propped up right there is a watercolor kind of in stages. So here's some of my watercolors, just like you might like a few images like that. And my tools and watercolor brushes. And so I paint flowers in nature. So these two Mexican daisies, which are not native, but that was a long time ago. These are in Baptist Medical Center South, and so they've been a really medical centers are really good clients because of the healing through art. And so that's where those are, and I have art all in other hospital settings and hospice settings. I also paint what I call tablescapes or still lifes, flowers that I buy and arrange. And this is cheese from when I visited Whole Foods. I just was caught by the sunlight and hitting the cheese. So, and let's see, go. Uh-oh, is it? Did you do something? Am I too loud or too soft? Yeah, okay. So I sold out of the hard covers, but I still have soft covers left. And fold out map, 19 paintings are in it. 60 parks are featured, all within 1 hour's drive of downtown Jacksonville. I highlight 3 nonprofit groups. Mark Woods wrote a wonderful foreword, and then our former governor and senator wrote the afterword. And there's neat things in the back of the book. So here's the map here. All these are featured in the book, and it's amazing how much people love, maps. That draws them in. And as an example, this is a watercolor of the Timucuan Preserve, and this is from the shoreline at Kingsley Plantation. And so these are what I called sketchbook journal pages, because to talk about the parks, I had to think through, do I want somebody to write something about the park? But then I had the idea of doing a mix of illustrations and smaller amounts of text to, inspire people to go to these parks. And this is one of my favorite paintings of the Theodore Roosevelt area, and it's on the cover of the book. So there's Willie Brown here. Each page has a map, and then I tried to highlight the history and then what you can do in all these different parks. And I thought you would like the Jacksonville Arboretum. This is another fun painting. And that's the original is at Baptist Medical Center South. And I put images of native plants, and because that's really what you only find at our parks is the native plants. And so just giving you a couple examples of the pages in the book. And I'm now on the board of Timucuan Parks Foundation, and they are our friends group for our parks in Duval County that are our preserves and wilderness parks. So if you ever want to support them, become a member, do trail maintenance, anything like that, join Timucuan Parks Foundation. That's our plug for that. And here's some of the pages in the back of the book, animal tracks. I labeled all the animals, find my dog in the pages. You can go to the GPS coordinates of a lot of the sites of the painting. And it was sponsored by Merrill Lynch, was the main sponsor who paid for the printing and the exhibit. So it was shown at Mosh, and that's where it started. And then it traveled around to the 4 counties that are featured in the book. So it went to the Thrasher Horn in Orange Park, and Cultural Center of Ponte Vedra. It went to Fernandina. I'm not showing you all the photos, but it traveled around our area. And then I collaborated with Timucuan Parks Foundation to celebrate their 20th anniversary. Painted 4 new paintings. We reused the map, and I painted these animals, and this was at Mosh, and the idea was to draw the kids into the space and see our native animals. So that exhibit is still traveling. It went to the beaches, and it's been at Port Caroline Visitor Center and other places, and we reused my illustrations to show that our parks give us a sense of place and a well-being. I bet y'all would all agree. So this all talks about that. So my current project, I've always been struck by the Work Project Administration National Park posters. And so the 2 on the right are historic ones of Zion and then Fort Marion. What is that? That's the Castillo de San Marco. It used to be called that. And so this is a newer poster that this ranger Doug, he found all the 13 or 16 the posters, restored them, and he prints them as a silk screen and sells them. And they've made designs of all the other big national parks. But my idea was, and I need to say that I did get an individual artist grant sponsored in part by PNC Bank and the Cultural Council of Greater Jacksonville to help pay for some of my time. But what I've done is I've designed park posters for 7 of our big parks here in Jacksonville, and y'all are the first ones to see them other than friends and family. So this is just a sneak, but hopefully you'll be seeing them. They're going to be shown at Mosh coming up, and I brought this one right here. I'm painting one for Timaquan Parks Foundation, and I just was working on this today, but I still need to paint the lettering and it's the old school style of doing all this. So that's Timaquan Parks Foundation. I'd like to do one for St. John Keeper and North Florida Land Trust. And the idea is they'll be scanned by my printer, and I'll sell, prints of them. A new copy, if I ever do a new edition, they'll be in the for that. So you like them? Oh, good. Yeah, I'm just a little crazy sometimes. So I was asked to speak about nature journaling. I don't do it as a practice, but I wanted to show you, I would speak on it and kind of how I've kind of used it for my book. But I thought about one of the most famous nature journalists in our country, at least, was William Bartram. So these are some of his sketches from when he was in Florida. And it's funny, this is an alligator on the right, upper right. And that was his vision of what the alligator, the way he sketched it. And this is somewhere in Florida. These are all three from Florida. And I did put quotes from William Bartram and John Muir in my book in the label pages. So that's a real neat aspect of the book. So these are some John. I didn't find any Florida John Muir illustrations, but this one in particular at the bottom right is interesting because this is his campsite from when he was traveling. So you can see the little people, and they're like look like hobos, kind of, but they're camping. So that's John Muir. So anyway, some of my kind of background for drawing, but also kind of getting into figuring out how to flesh out my book. But this was a book that I got as a kid. And if y'all ever heard of the Walter Foster series of books, it was all these how to draw books that my parents would give me, how to draw dogs and how to draw animals. But this was one of my favorite ones. But what I wanted to show you was see how I learned how to draw figures or shapes was by doing circles that added up to be what you were intending to draw. So you lightly, you lightly draw what you're looking at in that general shapes, and then you start adding your detail. But this was a formative book for me as a child. So another thing I thought about getting ready for this was when I went down the Grand Canyon back in the 1990s or so, you were given a waterproof mile by mile guide. And so I brought my waterproof pen and I wrote notes about it and where we camped, where we ate lunch, drew little details. But then later I went back and I sketched and pasted over their photographs with my sketches. So I kind of made my own little journal there. So that's something that you could do, is take a map or something like that and do your own notes to it. And I also bought this years ago, the sketchbook, how to keep a sketchbook journal. I have it right over here. And that was one of the things that I thought through. How do I make pages, for my book? I thought I liked the pages of her book. And you notice again, I chose this page because it shows how she planned out her horse or her bird with these general shapes. So that book, I would love it if anybody wanted to look through it even more. But she also talks about, and this is something I did in college, where you practice contour drawing and you do quick sketches or gesture sketches and line drawings. And if any of y'all want to take a photo of that page, the contour drawing, they're all exercises for different purposes for you to learn to not just think this is what a tree looks like in my mind, but this is what that tree looks like. It's a way to learn to draw, not just what you think a tree looks like, but what a particular tree looks like. And this was a neat page where I imagine some of y'all have your gardens and you want to write notes and what worked and what didn't. And so this is kind of an example of what you could do in your yard, and it's a way of journaling and noting, how things grow. that was funny. That converted that for some reason to different type. The computer did. So just these are some of the samples. So when I did my sketchbook journals, I brought my original pages. So this is an original book page here. And but what I did was I planned out, I pencil sketched how I had to plan for some illustrations that told the story, but then blocked out, type. So that's kind of how I came about doing these pages. And so now Jolie is going to hand out something for you. So this is your takeaway is I've talked to a couple people, a UNF professor of science and a friend of mine that used to live here, now lives in North Carolina, about nature journaling. And they both said, John Muir Law is the place to go. It's a website that this gentleman, I don't know how he got the name John Muir, but he's John Muir Law. So anyway, if those that are really truly interested in nature journaling, go to this site. And this is a little, they call them zines or magazines that I printed out that were. But so nature journaling is using words, pictures, numbers to collect and record your nature observations, questions, connections, and explanations in a notebook. And so he talks about how using words, pictures, numbers, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of in writing this down. And I have a list of tools, but he talks about tools, places to journal. And the main reason I gave you this is because I'd like those that want to go to this wildwonder.org, Google John Muir Law, and you can look up more about it. But on this inside page, it's exercises that you could do, and so you could just try to do some of these exercises when you're out on your next hike or whatever. So this is his website. And so on his website, he has YouTube videos galore, how to draw a bird, how to draw a tree, how to do this and that. And so those that really want to dive into it more, I just highly suggest you spend time on that website. I don't mean it to sound like I'm backing up, but it's, yeah. So in general, though, like if you wanted to get into nature journaling, you need a journal. And I brought, let's see. So I brought one that I sketched in some recently. I mean, do you feel like you'd carry that around in your back? Here's another one. This costs like $2 and I'm going to give it away today. So someone's going home with it. And so you need a journal, but I suggest soft pencils. Did y'all know that pencils come in different hardnesses and softnesses? So a softer pencil is easier, more pleasurable to draw with. So I think 2B or 4B is, if you've never tried it, and I brought some you can play with. And you can use a mechanical pencil, might be easier, or you bring a wood pencil and a small sharpener with you. And you can bring a white vinyl eraser. So I use a lot of black pens, like on these illustrations, I used an archival black pen, and I like this brand Pigma Graphic, and I bought some to give away today too. And there's different brush pens, but like Sharpie markers to me bleed too much, so I don't recommend those. And John Muir Law recommends using a non-photo blue pencil to do your shapes, to plan out like the circles and stuff, because then when you go over it with either real pencil or the black ink, it won't show. I don't normally do that, but he suggested that. And I brought he recommended the Prismacolor, have those too. And I wouldn't say you would take that whole set of pencils, but what you'd want to do is pick out ones you think you're going to use, put a rubber band around it, and carry it with you if you wanted to work in color. And a lot of people, you can buy these small watercolor kits that are a little tray you open up, cakes in them, and a little travel brush. Can also, do your sketch and then add the color with a watercolor sketch box type thing. But if you do that, you probably need to use heavier paper because the water in it will make it start buckling. So I did some screenshots of some of his pages, because the other thing I would suggest you do is follow him on Instagram. And there's a couple other people you'd probably end up segueing to, but follow him on Instagram. And these are just some pages that I thought were neat that related to kind of, native plants. And I like the way he used the white to pop out some of his drawings. But I would think too, y'all could write notes for some of the things going on in your garden at home, or what you see on the hikes. See, these are just some more samples that I thought looked really neat. I like the way he adds this color to pop it out. And I don't know if he did that in the field or came home later and did that, but he makes them look good, doesn't he? So just a couple more examples of his work. And see how he has a little clip to hold his paper down? So this is this is the friend in North Carolina that I mentioned, that she used to live here, moved to North Carolina, and she teaches online nature drawing classes. So that's another option, to go to stephaniesip.com, and she teaches classes. And here's some of her examples of some kind of nature journal illustrations that she's done of some native flowers. So she really works with more of a non-artist, helping them get more comfortable drawing. And she uses kind of a grid system to help you lay out your panels. And this is some of my sketches I did just recently going to North Carolina, that I'm like, oh no, I've got to speak and I better do some. So I was doing that. And oh, this is I love the hooded warbler. It's so cool. They were all in North Carolina, and I started getting really tuned into hearing them and seeing them. And then at our family's lake house, we had a juvenile barred owls that they're so funny when they're young. They're real curious, and they come around and show themselves more than they do normally. And then this is from my UNF science teacher friend. These are some of her students that she has them nature journal. And this was some examples that she sent me of what they're doing. So my thought is this would inspire y'all. Yeah, so here on the right, she kind of showed how it changed and and dried out in a stinkhorn fungus. Yeah. So this is my last slide. So I also thought about some of y'all that don't want to draw, but you want to keep a record of what's going on or what you see on a hike. I've gotten tuned into taking, if you have an iPhone, that's a goldenrod. If you hold the goldenrod, I mean, if you touch an object on your phone, if you have to have, I forget if it's iPhone. Well, no, yeah. So definitely Seek. You can take photos and it identifies it. What I'm talking about, if you wanted to use your own photos to create your own journal, but you don't want to draw, if you have an iPhone of a newer generation, not a very old one, you can touch the goldenrod, for example, and it highlights. I can show this to y'all later. It highlights it, and you can do this. I've done this with people, with dogs, where you can take out an object and it takes the background out, and you copy, and then you could paste it onto a document. And so I thought that if you wanted to do things like that, you could, print out the page after you isolate it, or you can just take photos, print them, cut them out, and put them on, or create your own pages and do your own handwriting or your own, typeface that looks like handwriting. So that's an idea I thought about. Anybody else have any other ideas? And that's the end. Oh, Adam, you're not good. Well, you see me to make more or to just see them in person? Well, I don't know. Like this project, my book and exhibit, I had it more thought out, and this is just like a love project that I decided to do. And so now the trick will be making some money from it because that's how I make a living. And so I imagine a lot of them will could be sold at the national, park visitor centers, or the Talbot Island people will sell them and things like that, and then my website and things like that. But my thought process is perhaps starting to add bigger state parks like Itchitucknee or Silver Springs, but not the big ones that Ranger Doug does, or is it Ranger Rick or Doug or whatever, but just in my thought, I don't know, but it could lead people to my website for my fine art. So now that I've done these 7, maybe I'll gradually add more. And then I still want to paint my paintings too. So another thing is I have a show coming up at the Cummer. They have a regional art wall when you walk into the Cummer, and there's the desk, and you take your first left, there's a wall right there, and there's a meet and I think it's going to be put up on the October 23rd, but there's a meet and greet on November 7th that you're welcome to join and meet and greet me. So, oh, did you have something, Julie? Yeah. I don't know. I have only paperback left now, and part of my, I've painted more paintings since then, like what you see over here, oil paintings, that if I were to do a new edition, I would add those paintings. And there's parks that are new that I could include, like Bulls Bay Preserve. I missed Egan's Creek and some others, so I would add more. I could add my park posters, but if it's not going to happen unless somebody else like Merrill Lynch or somebody pays for the printing, because I don't make enough money if I had to pay it. So we'll see. Which with it. Well, I've only done these 7 so far, but my fine art paintings, oils and watercolors, they're primarily from North Florida, but they're pretty indicative of our area, I think, in general. Oh, yeah. So I didn't put that in the book because it was outside the 1 hour's drive. But I have painted Princess Place Preserve, but I could in a new edition add that. I could. My thought also was to add day trips, like what could people do for a day trip? So you're looking at me like, am I supposed to stop talking? Okay. Okay. So, they were asking me if I'm gonna reprint the book, and they were asking me how many more park posters am I gonna paint, and we'll see how that goes. Was that about it? So we have a question about the emerald necklace. So I think it's great that it's getting money put towards it, but we'll see. I mean, it's fascinating that they're how the different creeks have been covered over, and now they're like, wow, we should let this be uncovered. But maybe, but I haven't. You're trying to put a bug in my ear? Yeah. No. Mm-mm. No, I mean, my focus has been as a board member and volunteer is to help, Timaquan Parks Foundation with the preserves in Jacksonville. And so I keep an eye on the Emerald Trail, but my focus has been that, helping them in my art. Yeah, Walter.
One particular part of town that you really would like to go to, and do you have a favorite native plant you'd like to plant? You'd like to plant?
Oh, paint. Yeah. So favorite park. The one I return to the most is probably Fort George Island for a number of reasons. You can kayak from there, mountain bike and hike, and the history, it draws me. I mean, I live near Tilly Fowler Regional Park, so we go there several times a week. And so I think those are kind of the two, big ones. Fort George Island State Park, and that's Kingsley Plantation, a national park site. Oh, Tilly Fowler Regional Park. It's across the street from NAS on Roosevelt Boulevard, the entrance. And Joe Lee works there. Well, yeah. So Tilly Fowler Regional Park has a nature center that Joe Lee has been working to activate again. And years ago, when I first started my book, before it got printed, we had prints made on this PVC material that were sitting at Mosh. And so I got them from Mosh, and Jolie's got them up in the nature center to have a little bit more, visual along with her creatures and stuff. So that'll be neat when that gets, more regular. It's getting more regular hours.
Last Saturday in October, and we're bringing seeds to fix the butterfly garden. So if you want to come and help out. Thank you.
Yeah, can I tell them about my family's lake house and the invasive? Because my mom and dad built a house on Little Lake Santa Fe about an hour away, and my brothers and I have been able to keep it. And coral ardesia is in everybody's yard, and it just, and pressing into our yard, and I have spent hours there, pulling them up by the roots, and if I can't, spraying the poison ivy type killer on it. And I think I've got it under control in our yard, but it's definitely, I just have to patrol every time I go around the edges and pull up, and it's tough, but it's sad because it's in other people's yards that I know they're not going to do anything. And then when I go paddle and kayak down this canal, you start to see it pop up, and that's sad that it's doing that.
No, it's,
You want this?
so if you want to come up and look at her stuff, look at the stuff.
I'm giving away things over here.
You guys, so
Thank you.
what? It's at Tilly Fowler. It's the last Saturday in October. Yes, everyone. Just go on our website or look at our newsletter. Thank you so much. Okay.
Well, what is that?
Green.
Very nice. Nice.
Wait. Oh, and spot and wait.
This is spotted D-bomb.
Oh, thank you.
And then this is Florida green eye. I didn't have much of that, but that I love.
This is my favorite.
Love it.
My favorite. It's spotted D-bomb.
Spotted.
The colors are so spectacular when it's in bloom. And this is green eyes.
Yes.
Goodbye.
But
From where? In
There's the house and there's the star. Yeah, I spotted it. With the, I love it there.